Hi, thank you for joining us for Situational Leadership, the right tool for the right job. This course is presented by the CTE Group, the Technical Assistance Center of New York. My name is Patrick Darfler-Sweeney, and I am here to be as your instructor for this course. First of all, I want to thank everyone out there for all your passion, education, um, dedication to the students and children of our communities. You're an inspiration to all of us. And we thank you for taking this time to enhance your skills as leaders as you continue your own personal journeys in education and education leadership. For myself, my journey started professionally in 1983. And I remember my classroom vividly. I had all the brand new technologies of the day. I had a 16 millimeter projector. I had a map from that showed all the colonial possessions in the continent of Africa, and the map I thought was brand new. It was actually from 1951. I had a film strip projector. We had a phonograph, and then because of a special grant that we got this brand new thing called the VCR camcorder. I was a little disappointed. I wanted the Betamax, but we got the VCR camcorder. Fast forward that to today, and you have smart boards, interactive boards, digital integration tablets, laptops, Chromebooks, simulations, uh, three-dimensional glasses, and virtual or VR experiences. Um, it's been quite a journey. And along that way, I've been able to come into contact with some great people. Um, I was 18 years a classroom teacher. For the balance of that time, I became an administrator. I did my doctoral work at Seton Hall, and one of my professors was Alan November, who is world famous as a digital education innovator. Definitely drank the Kool-Aid from him. After I retired, I was able to be an education consultant for SED out of the University of the University of State of New York Regents Research Fund. I work now and are as a member of the winemaker team. Liz Gallo is the leader of that organization. Um, Fantastic people. And I've been able to write a book about my leadership experiences in the superintendent rule book. So, what does that have to do with anything? Well, honestly, because of all the different positions I've had, whether it's we're talking about director of special education, athletics coach, athletic director, education consultant, principal, assistant superintendent, in all those positions, the over guiding thing or sort of the measurement of how effective we were was in a large part being able to figure out how can we get things done, right? Basically, in its most basic sense, how to get things done. Was it being able to teach children content in my classrooms? Was it to bring about a new testing protocol? Was it a new way of mapping out our curriculum? Whatever way we defined it, it was basically measured by um, how do you get things done? So, why take this course? Why take situational leadership? Well, first of all of you are in situations where you have teachers, administrators, LTAs, TAs, secretaries, custodians, bus drivers, community groups, advisory teams. You have parent groups, and all of these diverse groups bring with them their own experiences, levels of commitment, and education, quite frankly, and experience to whatever it is that you're trying to do. Um, if you are in a BOCES or a CTE institution, what's your background? Did you get to that background by having a general education background, or are you from the CTE environment to begin with? If you're from the general education background, the CTE environment is a brand new animal for you. And in terms of understanding the structure and how it connects with everything is another layer of something you'll have to come to terms with. What I'm trying to say is that one size fits no one. Okay? No matter how we slice this, whatever you're trying to do, you constantly have to evaluate on how to do that. Leadership is important, of course, but that means nothing if you can't manage that leadership. And I found it curious, especially my time when I was studying leadership at Seton Hall University. We're talking about the mid 2000s at that point. The idea of leadership was sort of evolving and trying to separate itself from sort of that manual manager type thing. And being a manager almost seemed like a dirty word or a lesser word, if you will. What we're now coming to realize, or what I actually had realized years ago, was that the the abilities and skills to manage what you're doing, managing a structure, is hand in hand important as seeing the system and understanding the system. We have a lot of leaders out there who can talk about system structure. I'm a systems thinker. Well, that's great. You see the system, but if you don't have anybody or don't know how to manage that system, it isn't going to work. And quite frankly, the best piece of advice I ever had was from my dissertation mentor, who said, "Remember, Pat, you don't know what you don't know." And as leaders, that's incredibly important. It's important for ourselves in terms of trying to be that person, if you will. But it's also important in understanding the people you're working with, your colleagues, your teammates, that they don't know what they don't know. And so, that frustration, it often happens when people go, well, they should just know how to do it. You know, the good observer always says, well, how exactly should they know something that they haven't been exposed to yet or haven't been challenged? So, what we have here is taking a look at the situational leadership. Situational leadership was part of works by Ken Blanchard and Paul Hersey. And in that, they talked about the original document was called The Life Cycle of Leadership. And in coming out in 1969, and like with anything that is written, you have to look at the product of the time period we have then. And looking back at 1969, I don't know about you, but I see some real interesting parallels to what we just went through in the years of 2020, 2021. I mean, let's take a look at it. In 1969, of course, we had the moonwalk, and everybody's thinking about going to the moon. NASA comes up in 2019 saying, hey, we want to go back to the moon. I'm sure the 50-year anniversary and everything had something to do with it. But just the same, popular culture, we had the Mod Squad. But of course, my childhood magazine that informed my warped sense of view of the world, Man Magazine. They had the Odd Squad. Today we have sitcom The Neighborhood. Um, that is Woodstock up there, the traffic up top at Hippie Fest. They actually closed the Thruway, for those of you who understand. They closed the Thruway, which was an incredible feat in 1969. Um, that's not the storming of the Capitol, the Time magazine cover. That's actually the large protest for racial equality, social justice at the Lincoln Memorial. And then, of course, in the bottom right corner, the guy who's still on tour to this day, Paul McCartney. It's great to see him there. So, what was happening at that time? Corporate America emerged from World War II, and corporate America basically, because World War II eliminated almost all of its real rivals in manufacturing, whatever, the U.S. companies had the world to its own. In fact, you may not know this, but in 1960, the United States produced 95% of the world's petroleum. Think about that for a second. Okay, 95%. Our three big car makers, GM, Chrysler, and Ford, dominated the auto market to the point of producing almost 80 to 85% of all cars in the world at that time. Now, when we think about these things, it's mind blowing. And for the most part, our corporate leadership or management style was the traditional top down, top down. dictatorial, let's get out the product and what have you. You start to see some changes during the 1960s as Deming's model, yeah, Deming's model of total quality management. The idea that if you improve the quality of the product, you're going to save cost, make your workers happy, and they'll make more money, and you'll make more money, and everybody will be happy about that. Hershey and Blanchard were beginning to look at this and and sort of put leadership on notice as saying that there's a change coming here. As we've got the student movements, the women's rights movements, we've got the anti-war movement happening in the United States. People were all questioning all authoritative sort of approaches to things, and this this culminated with the idea of looking at leadership from the perspective of being flexible. In other words, not just being that classic dictator, up on a tower and directing everybody like Bear Bryant in an old Alabama football movie, but to talk about leaders and in order to get the job done, whatever it is, or the task, being able to take with what they have and really melding it and bringing it to a new place. So, in essence, what they were talking about, if you really think about it, was the evolution of what we call influential authority. So, you have positional authority, which is I have the job, I'm the superintendent of schools, I have the positional authority. And then you have what you call the more influential position. In other words, people are gravitating toward this person and listening to this person more because of their influential nature of being able to do things. Okay? And what we'll be doing throughout this course is showing some short videos and instructing a little bit about um, situational leadership, looking at how we can apply that to our lives as educators and how we can bring that. Now, if you really think about it, this whole idea of looking at the group that you have and bringing them to a new level or bringing them to a task end has a lot of applications for what we do in an education life. I mean, we are taught in teacher preparation schools that our main job is to assess where kids are at right now, make interventions or experiences and engagement, and bring them to new levels of understanding, whatever. Hershey and Blanchard profit the idea that that is not only for education, but it's also for the workplace. And let's think about it. In one word, what we're talking about is collaboration, right? I mean, when you look at the Harvard Business School, when you look at what labor leaders are talking about all across the spectrum, the one thing that they absolutely say is a skill set that is needed for students coming out is collaboration. And we know as educators, if we're not modeling collaboration among ourselves, it becomes insanely difficult to teach our students how to use the same methodologies. So, in using situational leadership, what we're really talking about are the styles needed in order to have the most effective collaborative environment to get things done. And that's what this whole course is about, teaching you how to approach things better and to get things done. Okay, at this time, this video will stop and you will take a look at the next video, which goes over the model that Hershey and Blanchard put together. Following that, there will be some activities for you to test your knowledge, reflect a little bit, respond back in our dialogue box, and I will be checking that and going into it myself in order to further the conversation along itself. But before I cut out, right here, I want you to see this key here. Throughout this presentation, you'll see symbols like that. That indicates that there is a hot link to a resource there. And in addition to this video itself, or these series of videos, you'll have this PowerPoint presentation or this slide deck with the resources attached to it so that you can continue using it as a resource for yourself. So thank you for joining us. I hope you find it worthwhile, and I would appreciate any sort of feedback that you had, even while you're taking the course in the dialogue box itself. All right? Thank you, and